everyone. How are we doing? Great. Yeah, I'm gonna need energy from you because I am like a fairy, you know. Like if they die, you have to like clap, and they like come back to life. So just keep that in mind. It's really important to me. I'm gonna ask you questions, and I'm gonna need some feedback. So don't be scared. Nothing is going to go wrong. Hopefully. All right, so my name is Raquel Velez. I am Rockbot on all the things, particularly Twitter and GitHub. I work at NPM Inc., which if you've heard of it, you know how awesome it is. And if you haven't heard about it, I will tell you about it. Great, right? OK, cool. I also used to be a roboticist. Once upon a time, before I came into the web world, I built robots. And I've suddenly found myself on this fringe between software for the web and robotics. And it's a very interesting little intersection. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that today. First of all, how many of you have heard of node bots? Specifically, node bots. OK, not too many. Good, you're going to learn something today. Fantastic. OK, how many of you have played with robots before? OK, also just a few. How many of you wish you could play with robots? Yeah, exactly. OK, fantastic. So let's get started. Just a general overview, these are node bots. They're your run-of-the-mill robots, but you use JavaScript. I know that sounds crazy. We're going to get to that. But they've been around for about 2 to 3 years now. And given my particular background, I like to push the edge of what's possible. So we're going to see some things that are just like, why would you do that? It doesn't matter. I'm doing it. So my goal for today is first to introduce Node, because node bots. And then I'm going to talk about robots, so node and bots. And then we're going to go really deep dive into node bots itself. We're going to build our node bot. And then we're going to have a few demos. So let's all make sure that, like, I sacrificed a kiwi fruit last night. Hopefully the demo gods will be with us. We'll see how things go. Yeah? All right. We ready? Excellent. Yes. I love you. This is so great. OK, so Node, nice little overview. So Node.js is JavaScript on the server. And I know you're thinking this is ridiculous. This is a client-side language. But Node is great. And it's great because it's a nice small core. And it's asynchronous, which if that doesn't mean anything to you yet, it will in a second. But the great thing is that it's really, really fast. And it's really, really tiny. And it's perfect for real-time services, all sorts of applications where you have lots and lots of people hitting a site all at the same time, and nothing falls over. That sounds crazy, but people are using it in production all over the place. We've talked about Walmart, PayPal, Netflix is totally using Node. Lots and lots of wonderful companies are using Node now, and financial services are using Node, which obviously means it must be OK, because they are using your money to, like, protect everything with your money, and so it's got to be fine, right? OK, cool. All right, so the benefit of the small core. So when I talk about small core, those of you, how many of you are .NET type folks? OK, quite a few of you. So you know how when you install .NET on a new machine, it like takes 6 hours? So what's the purpose of that, though? Why does it take so long? It's because they're giving you everything, the kitchen sink, the refrigerator, and everything else. But it's perfect for you because then you have everything that you need to build your application right then and there. You don't have to go outside. You don't have to go find special libraries or anything like that. Node is completely the opposite. With Node, we have a super, super tiny core, like itty bitty core that does enough, but not a lot. And then we use something like NPM, which is the company I work for, to get lots and lots of tiny modules that do different things to build the specific application that we want. So I like analogies. And my favorite analogy for when I talk about NPM to especially non-technical people, I know you're all technical, but I like this analogy anyway, is NPM is a sandwich shop. So if you want to build a sandwich, you need 2 pieces of bread, some meat and some cheese, whatever. But what kind of bread and what kind of meat and what kind of cheese? Well, it depends. If you're making a roast beef sandwich or like a a caprese sandwich, it's going to be different, right? Totally, totally different. And so NPM is your sandwich shop. You get to say, OK, well, I want whole wheat bread for this application, but for this other one, I want sourdough. And so basically, it's just like an app store, but we share snippets of code between developers, and it's all JavaScript, usually. There's always somebody who puts Go on NPM, and I'm just like, OK, that's fine. But those of you who do Ruby, modules in Node are just like gems. I believe NPM is like the NuGet of .NET. I'm sorry, I'm not a .NET person, but I know enough a little bit about it. It's like Legos. It's great. I love it. Now, this asynchronous thing. People are like, async doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing is that for most languages, to speed things up, we have multiple threads, right? JavaScript and Node, single-threaded. So how do we get around the fact that we only have one tube to send everything through? We do things asynchronously. So the general notion behind synchronous versus async is that with synchronous code, you send an instruction off to the machine, and then you have to wait until the machine is done with it before you can move on to the next instruction. Whereas with async code, we send off instruction and instruction and instruction. Something comes back. Cool, we'll handle it. Instruction, instruction. Oh, next thing, handle it. So it depends on your application. It depends on what your use case is. Sometimes you want a synchronous system, and sometimes you want an async system. But Node gives us that opportunity to be async. Again, with the analogies, because I love analogies, it's like going shopping. Wait, bear with me. So if you need to buy an outfit, right? You need a shirt, a pair of pants, and a pair of shoes. Well, how does that? In a synchronous world, you go to the mall, right? And you go to the shops, and you say, OK, I'm going to the shirt store. And in order to get my shirt, I have to find the shirt, go to the register, pay for it, and then I have the shirt in hand. And then I go to the pants store, and et cetera, et cetera. So you can't buy the next item of clothing until you've finished buying the first item of clothing and have it in hand. Asynchronous is like shopping online, where you basically go to shirtstore.com, shoestore.com, and pantstore.com, and you buy all your things, and you pay for everything. But you might not necessarily get everything in the order that you paid for it. But you don't have to wait for it to have an item in hand before you can actually go through and buy the next thing. So that's synchronous versus asynchronous. Again, it really depends on what your use case is and what matters. But for Node, async, it's great. Cool. How are we feeling about Node? Yeah? Did that make sense? Was that pretty OK? All right. I like my analogies, but if they suck, tell me. All right. So let's move on to robotics. So basic robotics. What is a robot? Ask 10 roboticists, and they will give you 10 different definitions, but I like to just bring it down to one simple thing, which is a robot is a machine that is programmable by a computer. That's it. Very simple. Let's not get all into specifics, edge cases, et cetera. No, whatever. A robot is a machine that is programmable by a computer. Cool? All right. So we see these every day, right? They're starting to come into our homes. They're in industry. They're building our stuff. And we even start hearing about these newfangled future ones, right, where they're like driving people maybe around by themselves, weird, creepy. How many of you think that being a part of this movement is completely out of reach? Like, there's no way I'm going to build one of these things right now. Wow, OK, fantastic. All of you think that this is you could just join the robotics team right now. Yeah? Good, I'm done. See you later. But why is it that we're so scared of this notion, right? These traditional robots. What is it about them? Well, you need to have a lot of education to get started, right? You need these PhDs. You've got to work in a research lab because nobody knows what's going on yet. So we're constantly redefining how this stuff works. And let's be real. Like Asimo right here, this robot, not cheap. Not cheap at all. More like tens, hundreds of millions of dollars to build this guy. Not cheap. And let's be even more honest. These are hard problems to solve. They're so hard because nobody knows what they're doing. No one knows how this works. But what if it didn't have to be so hard? What if we could all just kind of jump in and start playing around? Introducing node bots. So a node bot is basically a robot that's programmed with Node. Yes, JavaScript, right? Because Node it's just JavaScript. It's a platform, but it's JavaScript. And so we see them slowly coming out. And remember, a robot is just a machine programmable by a computer. So this is a node bot, very simply. What is it? It's somebody has used an Arduino to get their, they have a little button, and as they press the button, an LED turns on. And when they let go of the button, the LED turns off. But they're using JavaScript to make that happen. Going a little bit more complex, we have this little sumo bot. If you've ever seen a bunch of middle-aged developers start screaming like children at a sumo bot competition, it is the most adorable and hilarious thing ever. Because basically you have these robots that, again, you program them with Node, but you have two on like a round table, just like the ones you have in front of you, and the goal is just to push the other one off. And that's it, but the amount of entertainment that comes out of it is just unreal. So we'll do that next year, right, Ian? Yeah, OK. And then you don't even have to necessarily use the hardware. You don't have to build the hardware yourself. You can actually just bring hardware in from outside. This is a Parrot AR drone. And so all of the hardware has been made commercially, but we're using Node. We've hacked the entire system to use Node to get it to lift off, to turn, to flip it over in the air, whatever. And so these are Node copters, actually. So there's an entire like sub-movement of Node bots that's Node copters. And OK, so that's great. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're like, this is ridiculous. Why would you use JavaScript to program a robot? Robots are programmed in C++, a hardy, threaded language that has been around for ages, and academics around the world love it. JavaScript, what? Yeah. But of all of you in the room, how many of you have ever touched JavaScript? Yeah. How many, on a scale of ridiculously hard to, oh my God, so easy, how easy is it to write JavaScript? Yeah, OK, I'm taking like a running average here. OK, so how many of you have needed a PhD to play with JavaScript? You need the PhD. Yeah, exactly. OK, so JavaScript is, in fact, one of the most popular languages in terms of use, just because it touches all of us really use it in some way, shape, or form. So this is why. This is why we program with JavaScript. Because it doesn't cost anything. It is literally in every single browser. You just go to the console, and bam, you have JavaScript. None of those archaic, random languages. You don't have to pay a bajillion-dollar license fee for MATLAB. It's just JavaScript. And it's available to everyone. And it's not that hard to play with. So that's why we use JavaScript. OK. Let's build a node bot. Yeah? OK. Very cool. All right. So this is ArtBot. You may notice ArtBot has bat wings. That's because ArtBot used to be BatBot. And BatBot used sonar to find his way out of a paper bag. It was very cool. But then BatBot went to a cafe in Paris and realized that what he really needed was to kind of dive in deeper into his soul and experience art. So decided to do the art thing instead and change his name to ArtBot. And anyway, ArtBot likes to draw. And hopefully ArtBot will cooperate today. But to build ArtBot, there are some components, right? So we've got an Arduino Uno, which is kind of the most basic of microcontrollers that you can get out there. We're using a BOE-bot robotics shield, which is the chassis. So that's just like the body of what's going on here. And then I don't want to have to deal with cables. So I'm using XBs, which are just, it just allows us to use radio waves to talk via the USB, so that we don't have to be tethered, because I don't like wires. Let's see, what else? We also need a marker, obviously, so that we can kind of draw little things. And we've got other little accessories, glue guns, felt for wings, etc. And it comes out to approximately $300-ish. This is US dollars. I understand that here in New Zealand, everything is just multiply it by 2 or something. But even if you multiply by 2, that's still not hundreds of millions of dollars. I know it's not cheap, but by comparison, it's a rounding error. OK. The other nice thing is that there are a lot of these things there are open source options, so like open source hardware, et cetera. So you can actually bring the cost down even more. So like it's kind of nice that way. All right. So that's the hardware side of things. In terms of the software side of things, we have a module called Johnny 5, and the creator of Johnny 5, Rick Waldron, is also on the board of jQuery. So he decided, you know, it'd be great. It'd be so great if I could programmatically talk to my hardware the same way that I would use jQuery. So if you look at this, there's a line at the top that says var LED gets new 5 LED and then pin 13. And then we can say LED.on, LED.off. Super simple, super, super simple. We can do this with all of our components, all of our sensors, all of our actuators, and we can have everything talking to each other, and we all use it in real time using Node. So that's pretty neat. So all that said, we've talked about Node. We've talked about robots. We've dived in a little bit into what node bots are. So now let's change everything entirely, and let's make some art. Yeah? OK. Art is, it's what you think it is, right? It's about you and what you see and how you feel about art, whatever. We're calling it art. OK. So for making art, let's turn on our philosophy hats. Gentleman over here with the particularly large hat, I'm sure has lots of philosophy in there. So if this robot is about to make art, does that mean that the robot's an artist? What does that mean for a robot to be an artist? Can we make a robot into an artist? Is that even possible? Let's take it a step at a time. So before even touching the robot, we need to be able to draw, right? So I have an app, a really simple app, where I'm using a web framework called Express, which is a Node framework. And I'm using Canvas, which is our HTML5 basic run-of-the-mill canvas, so we can actually draw in the browser. I'm using some client-side JavaScript to take events, handle events on the keyboard so that I can draw things around. And I have a module that I wrote that's called Vector, which is a linear algebra-focused, or it's a robotics-focused linear algebra module that basically just makes it nice and easy to manipulate Canvas, because I don't like Canvas's API at all. And my goal with this is to make an application that allows you to draw on the canvas just using your keyboard keys. Yeah? Cool. All right, so demo number 1, I have to do a little bit of fancy free back and forthy things. So just, if I can have some music, Yep, exactly. Well done. All right. And we can all see this, hopefully. Excellent. OK. So I have this super, super basic thing where I've got little ArtBot-like thing. And I'm using the WASD keys to kind of move around. And I can turn and go backwards. And I can draw. So I can have a little, so this is pretty cool. Really basic, just run-of-the-mill canvas drawing. Whee! OK. Yeah, not that impressive. That's fine. Wait. OK. Now, that was our basic first demo. And that's kind of the crux of things. So the next piece is to bring the robot in. So adding a robot into the mix, we use the exact same application, exactly the same. But now we're adding a couple of things. We're adding Socket.io, which is another module that basically allows us to use sockets to talk to take the events that we're generating on the client side and then pass those events over to the back end so that I can use Johnny 5 to manipulate the robot. Cool? Yeah? All right, so then the goal with this is to have the robot follow along with my keyboard movements. OK, so demo again, back and forth, da 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 da, do 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 do. Feel free to play along. I mean, if you want to. You don't have to. You certainly don't have to. But I think it'd be cool stuff. OK, so if we can grab the video of the robot, please. Now, hopefully, there we go. All right, so now I'm using the robot, and I can draw. And hopefully, we'll actually see. Let's make sure. There we go. Can you see some lines? Yeah, so that's pretty cool. All right, so that's fun. We're not done yet. I am just, no, OK. So what do we have next? So that was pretty sweet. What basically was happening there? I had my event on the client side that when I pressed WASD or a spacebar to toggle the drawing, that gets consumed by jQuery, and then via sockets, sends the event over to the back end, and the back end says, OK, I've received this event name, and with that event, turn left or put down the marker. I basically use Johnny 5 to say, hey, OK, do that on the robot. How does that get over there? Well, there's another module that's within Johnny 5 called node serial port that basically sends our JavaScript over the wire, well, over the air wire, to the robot that talks to standard formata on the Arduino. And it's all being done real time. Yes, I have to be tethered to my machine, but whatever. It's robots. OK. So let's take a step even further, right? So what's happening? What would be even cooler? We're thinking about art and artists and this robot that may or may not be an artist. But it's one thing if I'm telling the robot what to do. That's just an extension of my hand. But if I have the robot making its own decisions, then maybe it's actually telling me about its feelings. OK, so yes, we're totally hitting onto the artificial intelligence side of things. What is artificial intelligence? It's not really much of anything except a fancy algorithm that we put on board the robot, and then it just decides based on the things that we've told it to do in a general sense. That's artificial intelligence. I'm so sorry. Skynet is not that interesting. OK. So in order to make this happen, we need to do a little bit of reverse engineering, right? So I think about what drawing is. What are the basic principles of drawing? Really going down to the nitty-gritty, simple, simple, simple bits. And then let's work our way backwards from there. OK, so if I'm going to draw something, I need to make two major decisions. The first one is when to draw, right? Pen up, pen down. The taking up of space and the absence, or the space versus absence of space, that's kind of a major part of drawing, right? So pen up, pen down. The next question is where to draw. So we have when to draw and then where to draw. So it's one thing just to kind of pen up, pen down, but also moving around the canvas. That's another major piece, right? So where does the pen go? When does the pen go down? And now I'm going to show you the secret, artificial intelligence. Here is our function. This is it. This is the entirety of the artificial intelligence that is going to be on this robot. So I have another package called random, which helps me get random values. And I have a Boolean, a random Boolean, so either true or false, that will toggle whether or not we're drawing. So this is just going to be I'm drawing, I'm not drawing, pen up, pen down. And then I'm going to pick a random direction. I'm favoring forward a little bit, because that's just more interesting. But pick randomly one of these functions, and then go, right? And then this just kind of goes in a loop over and over and over again. And yeah. So this is one of my fun, I like this quote a lot. Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Emphasis mine. So do we want to see what ArtBot might be feeling? All right, let's see what ArtBot wants to show us. Now, I'm going to need at least one volunteer. I think I may have been assigned volunteers, but if I haven't been, I need one or two. Who do we got? One. Come on up. Two. Come on up. OK, fantastic. Round of applause for our volunteers. All right. One of you gets to stand up here, and one of you needs to stand down there. So here's the thing. Last time ArtBot was on stage, I think he had a little bit of stage fright and decided to just kind of leave. So I really don't want that to happen this time. So your jobs are to make sure it doesn't fall off the table. Also, this is why robots are not taking over the world anytime soon. It can't even stay on the table. OK, so what happens is in the event that it starts to kind of move over, just pick it up around the side and just bring it straight back into the middle. Really simple. We're still going to call it feelings, nevertheless. OK, so let's see what happens next. If I can have the extra camera again, please. Perfect, perfect. And let's go ahead and do that. OK, so I have a very special key called, it's the G key for go. Are we ready? OK. All right, so ArtBot is making all of its own decisions right now. It's deciding what matters to it, and very carefully, ArtBot's just like, I'm done. Count me out, I'm over, it's over. I just don't even care anymore. OK. Thank you, ArtBot. The demo gods, thank you very much. All right. Why? It also turns out if you talk to your robot, they don't actually listen. Surprise, surprise. All right, good news, though. Good news, I have a video. So you can really see some interesting stuff. Let's go back. All right, so we can actually watch ArtBot in the comfort of the hotel room. Don't worry, hotel staff, this was a different hotel. You'll understand why in a minute. But you know, ArtBot's doing its thing, and it's just kind of going around. And yeah, in this case, it's tethered because functionality, like, you know, reasons. But ArtBot's just kind of having some fun, deciding where it wants to go, and but the point is you can tell, you can see how difficult all these decisions are. He's very carefully placing each stroke just the right way and with care and stuff. But that's OK, because we love ArtBot, and we love what ArtBot does. And are you done yet? Thank you. OK. So if we were to kind of critique this art, because no art is complete without a critique, I think we can say that right around the middle is where he's experiencing anxiety and then finds a need to kind of stretch out and go out into the unknown and explore, but continues to come back because that's where his roots are. Putting back on our philosophy hats. Is ArtBot an artist? Is it? Yeah? No? Maybe? Let's talk about it after tea. All right, so this was fun. This was cute. You're probably not going to take any of these things that you learned in the last at least 5 minutes back to work with you, and I'm really sorry to your employers. So I know some of you are thinking, like, OK, this is cute, but so what? So what? The world of robotics is massive. There's so much more than just this little robot that draws with a super simple randomized function. And we could keep going, right? There's computer vision, there's sensor fusion, there's all sorts of random things that we have so totally not touched on here. But if there's one takeaway I want you to take from this, there's one thing. It's that it's all JavaScript, all of it. This thing that you have in your browser right now can do this. That is so empowering, right? There's this unbelievable opportunity that we have to take the things that we take for granted and make something really, really cool with it. And every single one of you, even if you've never touched JavaScript, and I can't tell if there was anybody who hasn't yet, but you can do this. You can do this. Just because I have a degree in mechanical engineering does not mean that I'm the only one who can do this. Anybody can do this. All right, cool, whatever. Yeah. All right, so what did we really do here? What did we accomplish? We have sent basic algorithmic decisions over the air wire via the computer to a vehicle that makes its own decisions, right? It takes a little bit of information, whatever, and then it just does stuff. So we're sending instructions to a remote vehicle, telling it to do something, and in some way getting some feedback. Have you ever heard of another robot that does that? That's right. The Mars rover does exactly the same thing. And OK, maybe it's a little bit fancier, and its hardware is a little nicer, and it's on Mars. There's totally not any JavaScript on it. At least, oh God, I hope there's no JavaScript on it. But the basic fundamentals that we learn from playing with one of these are the fundamentals of playing with one of those. And I can tell you that for a fact because I helped work on one of these. So it's the same thing. The same thing. So if you don't think that this is like, to me this is just totally mind-blowing. I'm using the thing in my browser to help me figure out how to do something like that. This is no longer unachievable, even though I know most of you were like, I can totally join a robotics team right now. No bigs. So yeah, we're just getting started. This is the beginning. NodeBots has been around for a couple of years. There are more things happening. There are NodeBots events happening in New Zealand already. There's another speaker here who I saw in her bio. She does a little bit of NodeBots, so now I'm going to go tackle her and make sure that she starts some more stuff here. This is happening, and it's so cool, and it's so fun. And if you can write jQuery, you can make these robots. All right, so it's your turn. I want you to tell me what it is that you work on. Just reach out to me any way, shape, or form. All of this code is online. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hello. Anybody got any questions?
Yes.
Hang on.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Ian is coming around the bend.
If we can say that.
Hi, thanks. It was great.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what's running on the NodeBot itself?
Sure. Very little. Very, very little. We just have an Arduino, and it's basically, think of it as just an open socket, just waiting. Tell me what to do. And Johnny 5 basically talks directly to standard Fermata, which is the language on the board, and says, OK, turn this thing on. OK, turn on this pin. Add extra voltage to this pin, voltage to that pin, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all happening in real time, which is why we have to keep it tethered.
So I have a
So it really depends on what so the question was, does it matter? Is that always the case? Is it always JavaScript? So it really depends on your microcontroller. In the case of the Arduino, there's not enough. For a node bot to work, you need to have node. Surprise, surprise. But with an Arduino Uno, there isn't enough memory on board for us to have a node instance. So we can't have it on board itself. But if you're using a BeagleBone Black, you can. If you're using a Raspberry Pi, you can hook that up with an Arduino, and you can have the two things kind of working together. So you can have it on the robot itself. So it just depends. Cool. Other questions?
Just wondering what the coolest node bot is that you've built.
The coolest node bot that I've built. I mean, I think ArtBot's pretty cool. BatBot was pretty cool, too. I have a manipulator, so like a industrial type robot that named Manny, the manipulator. I'm really good with the names. Yeah, I haven't done too much in terms of really neat node bots yet, because that takes time and trying to understand how to use Node to do really cool things. And outside of node bots, I've worked on autonomous vehicles. I've worked on biomechanical type applications. I worked on little Lego Mindstorms. I'm obviously going in order of complexity here. Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to build next. I kind of want to build a high five machine that just like knows when you're like holding a high five up and then just goes. But that's actually a really hard problem and takes a lot of time, and I don't get paid full time to do this for fun. So we'll see.
Yeah. Quick question. Do you know of any initiatives to teach kids to code and something like NodeBot, so that, like with my son, I'm working with a platform called Learn to Mod that uses Blockly, produces JavaScript, and it drives Minecraft. So he's modding Minecraft and gets a kick out of spawning 50,000 chickens.
Right.
But a robot, I think, would really kind of blow their mind because it's a physical world thing as well.
Yeah. So there's nothing, as far as I know, there aren't any super like specific, we are teaching kids to code with robots. I don't know off the top of my head. Hummingbird? Hummingbird? OK, apparently there's one called Hummingbird. OK, ask the Kiwis in the audience. They seem to know. There's also every year we have an International NodeBots Day, where cities from around the world all on the same day just have like a NodeBots hackathon, basically, just for the day, and that's really fun. You don't have to know how to build a NodeBot to organize one of these things. So if Auckland wanted to have a NodeBots Day event here, that would be so cool! Yeah, so.
With the Evo, have you done much interfacing with the Evo? Or how flexible is that interface, or is it pretty locked down?
I am not familiar with the Evo at all, unfortunately. Oh, the Lego Mindstorms. I have not played with the Lego Mindstorms in JavaScript yet. I've only ever written Robot C on Lego Mindstorms, and that was 10 years ago. So I know that people have done it. I know that there is a Lego Mindstorms module on NPM. So it's certainly possible. I haven't actually played with it myself.
Will we have GoBots in the nearest future?
GoBots?
Yeah.
So GoBots already exist. They are, it's a little bit more of a proprietary thing. So NodeBots is a community-wide thing. The only GoBots I've heard of were created by a group called the Hybrid Group, and they're based in the US. And they have Cylon.js and GoBots and a Ruby version as well, so you can like program all. But their interface is different than, say, like the Johnny 5 version, which it just comes down to what your preference is. But yeah, totally, GoBots, make it happen. Go for it. All right.
Yeah, so we're ready. I think the food's ready. So
Okay.
everybody, thank you very much.
Time for tea.